everybody, Paul here from Warden's Farm. It's May 3rd, 9:24 in the morning. We're getting ready to go get into the hives and start doing a mite wash. A mite wash is done with alcohol, which I use the 70% alcohol, and not promoting any certain product here, but I'm using this, the Easy Check, which you fill it up with alcohol. You take a half a cup of bees, which should be about 300 bees. You put them in here, you shake it up for 5 minutes, and then you count the mites that are in the bottom of the mite wash Easy Check system here. And I also use a plastic bin, which I dump bees into. Then I can take my cup, measure the bees, put them in what I need. Then I can put the bees that I don't use back in the hive. But this is how we're going to run through the hives here real quick and do a mite count on each one of them. You want to take the bees off of the frames that are holding brood though. You don't want to use ones for the ones that aren't on the brood, because this will tell you how many bees are probably under the capped brood that you're checking. So without further ado, let's go get into the hives. For those of you that are wondering what mites are tiny little, about the size of a head of a pin. The end that's got the part that you can put your thumb on, which is smaller than that. So it's a tiny little bug that came here in 1987. Somebody brought an Asian hive over here, and they escaped from the hive and they spread throughout the US, and now every beehive has mites that you have to deal with. And if you don't deal with it, they bring all kinds of diseases into your hive. Crooked wing virus is one of them, and there's many others that they can carry and spread throughout your hives that can end up wiping out your bees. And that's one thing we don't want to do. That's why we check for mites. And if you find more than 3 mites per 300, you have to treat. And hopefully you can treat naturally by doing a clean break, which is where you just go ahead and take the queen out and let them raise a new queen. The time it takes for them to do that, they become broodless, and there should be an even break that wipes the mite count down. It won't get rid of them all, but it'll wipe them down. You got Epivar strips you can use, you got oxalic acid you can use. There's a lot of different things you can treat these things with. So if you haven't treated your hives, you might need to get out there and check them and see what they have for a mite count, and then treat appropriately. I have the 2 honey boxes set down to the side because they won't have a queen or eggs or anything in it, because I have the queen excluder. So I'm going to come underneath this queen excluder. We're going to set them to the side, and now I'm into the deep box. I'm going to find the frame that has brood and a lot of nurse bees on it, and I'm going to take the nurse bees off with a brush into the plastic holder to get my 300 bees. So in doing this, you want to have everything set up right off the bat, because the bees get irritated really fast, really easy. So I take my container, I have it standing by to sweep the bees in with my brush. And I have my cup here, and I have my alcohol wash ready with the lid loosely off, but covered so bees don't fly into it. And let's find a frame of brood. There we go. Now we got the bees smoked down a little bit. So now we're going to try to find a frame of brood. I'm just going to the center where I've got a new frame for them to build out, because usually the brood will be right here in the center. Now there's some brood on this side, very little on this side. A lot of drones, so that's a possibility. Now there's a good frame of brood right there, but it really doesn't have a lot of bees on it. So I want to find one that's got a lot of bees on it. Alright, this will probably be the frame that I'm going to use. So I'm going to get everything ready. So there's a lot of bees, a lot of brood. So let's get them in here. Come in here, get a half a cup. Because there's a little under a half a cup there. We're going to put a little more in. And like I said, the bees will get upset quickly. And of course I dropped my lid, so that can go there. And while that's there, I'll put the hive back together real quick. Get all these bees back in there. Going along here, putting this hive back together. It works a lot better when you have two people, but when you have one, you got to make do. The good thing about when you're doing this check is I can see how the honey boxes are doing now that we got that done. Now we screw the lid on and we start shaking. So while I do this, I'm going to hit pause. And here we are, we're still shaking, still getting the mites broke free from the bees. And just to show you what's going on inside there, you have this little cup here that's holding the bees, and we're shaking the bees up, trying to get any mites that are affixed to them off, and that way we can get pretty much an accurate count. We're hoping to see 3 or less, and let's see if we can see what we got here. Okay, so this is kind of what you see when you do the wash, and this is what I like to see. You look up in there and there is one mite. There's one mite right here by my little finger, and that's the only mite that I see in there. So that's really good. So what's good about that is that tells me that hive 1 and 1A are good. Have probably very few mites. That's 1 mite per 300. That's within the threshold that I want. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start hitting these other hives and do the same thing. If I get one that's got a high mite load, I'll start the camera over again. So let me hit the rest of these hives. Okay, so I went through hive number 3, did the mite wash there. Looking at this one, try to get the sun for you. You can see there's 3 mites right there in the bottom, 4, 5, and one there is 6 and 7. So that tells me that hive number 3 needs to get treated. So I got it wrote down on a piece of cardboard here that hive 3 had 7 mites per 300, and I'm going to keep going through the rest of the hives. Once I go through the hives, that'll tell me which ones need to be treated. I will treat them with an appropriate measure,